Welcome to the Become a Provider show. We interview successful servant leaders across all industries to share inspiring stories on faith, life, and work. If you want to find extra motivation to help you become the best version of a servant leader for your family and career, then you're listening to the right show. I'm your host, Justin Thomas, co-founder of the C.L. Thomas Fellowship Christian nonprofit, health entrepreneur, and author. I want to live an exciting life and to hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." I want to dream big with my family, have fun, build enduring companies. Welcome to the show. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Become a Provider show. And as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, we're going to a weekly cadence. And just to recap, 1 week is going to be a one-to-one interview with a guest, a servant leader, a provider who has inspired me or provided for me in some way that I bring on the show, interview, try to tease out what are the habits and things that they do in their life that is worth replicating or at least learning from, and that I just enjoy having the excuse of having a podcast interview guests. We've had over 130 so far. Now, what we're doing today is a little bit different. So 1 week we'll have an interview, and then 1 week I'll have a solo episode like this one. And the theme is, how have I been trying to develop the skill of being a healthy provider? So, welcome to the Healthy Provider series. I'm Justin, your host, and I'll be sharing with you some of the things that I have experience in and just what has worked for me. So I hope this is entertaining, maybe even inspiring. Just take it for what it is, my experiences, and I'm freely sharing it with you. So here we go. Of course, I've got a presentation, and I would invite the listeners of the podcast, if you're not watching this on YouTube, check out the show links, and I've embedded a PDF so you can follow along if you want to. So, this is the Healthy Provider series. Let's get into it. As a quick recap as well, when I say provider, so many connotations. Think of it this way: provider equals bless plus protect. Well, then what is a healthy provider? How I define that is someone who blesses and protects without burning out. So these are the lifestyle habits that I've picked up over the years that are helping me to move forward in this identity as a healthy provider. There's a lot of things I do not do well. So I'm learning just like you of how to start and grow a business, how to delight employees, how to delight clients, how to invest wisely. These are all things that I am in the arena learning alongside many of you. The thing that may make me a little bit unique is 7 years ago when my father passed away, I just made a commitment to say, I want to be the best provider I can be. That was the legacy that my father left. And I've just tried to pick up that legacy and run with it, literally as an ultra runner. But more than that, just trying to push myself in ways that I can provide for others. My father was imperfect in how he did it. I'm imperfect for how I did it or do it as well. And yet it's something that I've really focused on. So I'm coming to you with that experience, and it'll make a little bit more sense as we go on the presentation here. Quick visual for you in the next slide: 5 pillars of the series. So, a couple episodes ago, I unveiled this new series and I said, hey, it's going to be talking about 5 different pillars, different topics. And just to share with you again, it's going to be family oriented. So, we'll talk about how to be a healthy provider for your family, how to be a healthy provider physically as well with your nutrition. So, as a trained health coach and just someone who's interested in that field, I'll share my experiences. Faith. So, part of the mission, this podcast is part of the C.L. Thomas Fellowship nonprofit, which is named after my father, something my family and I started. And the mission of this nonprofit is to inspire parents and leaders to become servant leaders and providers like Jesus. So, faith is a core component of this series as well. And then my career. How am I providing? Practically providing for my family and others. And what are some current goals that I'm working through as well? So that's a recap of the pillars of this Healthy Provider series. Today, we're going to go into the family section. And I thought that I would rope in Amy for this, but actually, this one is going to be good just to share with you how I have tried to lead in this way of being a healthy provider for my family. And don't worry, we'll have some Amy stories here as well. Quick tangent and a bonus is who is providing for me. that actually influenced this presentation, I want to share two people. This is just a complete bonus of the episode. Number one is David J.P. Phillips. David Phillips. He had a viral TED talk several years ago called How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint. I loved this. This was something that I watched right before giving a sermon at my church on Father's Day as a guest speaker. It is so practical. Things like have one message per slide. Don't have too many bullet points. Don't even rely totally on the PowerPoint. One of the key takeaways that I had was like, hey, remove the PowerPoint just like I did now. So if you're not actually sharing the message that's on the screen, take it away or have a blank slide. And so if you have not yet watched that TED Talk and you're someone that gives presentations, it's a fantastic one. Very humorous as well. How to avoid death by PowerPoint. A lot of good gems there. So I've tried to add some visuals to this, but also the techniques in it. How to become a better public speaker. Very well done. So back to the presentation. Hopefully, I avoid death by PowerPoint in this one. The other person I wanted to highlight as someone who has been providing for me in this season, more so on the business consulting side of what I do, but it relates to this presentation. And it's Alex Hermosi, and he gave a talk you can find on YouTube called 55 Minutes of Social Media Content for Entrepreneurs. 55 Minutes of Social Media Content Strategy for Entrepreneurs by Alex Hermosi. Why did I pick this one out to say this is providing for me that relates to this Healthy Provider series? Well, in this talk, he really stresses to entrepreneurs don't pretend like you're an expert in something when you're not. So it's kind of ironic to see this 18-year-old relationship expert giving advice. I mean, there's some experience they have, but wouldn't you much rather get relationship advice from someone that's been married for 50 years? And so leverage the experiences you've had and talk about that. And that's how you generate trust. That's how you generate a following. That's how you deliver value. It's by being authentically who you are and the experiences you've had. And so this talk has really helped me out because as I was preparing for this is actually the third topic that I have prepared for you today. And I'm so grateful that God has positioned these two guys who don't know me at all. And I've been able to learn from them. I think as an example of having a remote provider, a remote mentor, someone that you're learning from in just the right season. I believe that God puts that, whether video or book in front of you or person in front of you. And so what I've learned from Alex Hermosi is his story is he focused on growing his business. And then once he was successful in growing the business, he started to give some business advice. And so it really challenged me. There's a lot of things that I'm passionate about. Part of my personality is being an achiever, an enthusiast. Some tests have that label, a learner. And so what that means is I can get excited and start sharing things that I'm only maybe an inch deep into. And so thank you, Alex, for really challenging me for this Healthy Provider series and this one in particular to think about what is it that I have deep experience in that I can share? And not telling you how to do it, but just saying how I have done it. So I hope this helps. And it's fun to learn and actually implement things. So today's focus, the one message is how to be a healthy provider for your family and sharing with you all how I've tried to do that. And here's my experience hosting and facilitating 14 family summits so far. 14 family summits. And Amy and I have actually shared about this in an earlier podcast. I've done a little bit of a deeper dive for this show and wanted to share something that people keep asking me about whenever it comes on or whenever I'm a guest on a podcast, which happened recently. This really piqued the host interest. Like, what are you talking about with a family summit? How long have you done this? What's the agenda? So I thought, oh, I just thought everyone did this, and maybe this is somewhat unique. So today's focus on being a healthy provider, all about the family and all about these family summits. I've been doing this from the very beginning. In October, in a few months, Amy and I will celebrate 15 years of marriage. And, there's a lot of things that I have started and stopped. And I'm proud to say that for some reason, this has been something that we have dedicated ourselves to and that I have helped bring this to Amy, and she has learned to appreciate about me these family summits. So, this is based actually off of a framework that most businesses do anyway, right? So, I'm just taking the business frameworks of their annual planning and taking this into the family here. And so, just imagine this. If you're running a business, this is what typically happens. They want to have a healthy culture. And so they'll have an offsite or they'll have a retreat with the leaders and they'll focus on the health of the relationships. This is very timely for me, actually. This week, part of my professional journey is that I'm the senior advisor for Doable Health, and I get to help facilitate and plan a team meeting planning for the next quarter. And what we're doing is actually going to be doing a personality test and seeing how well the team works together, the nuances and differences so that we can work better together, right? So this is just a common business framework. Also in this business framework, there's an icon of a man looking through a telescope and it's saying, "Hey, we got to have a vision. Let's remind ourselves why are we in business? Where are we going?" And then you begin to set goals. So with the bullseye here is what's our goal? 10 years, 3 year, 1 year, and then the next quarter. So this is all pretty common practice in the business world. I've just taken this into the family world. And so here's how I plan a family summit. We pick a date, typically in January. And before Amy and I meet, I will update our personal balance sheet. So just looking at assets, liability. So I've got that to bring to the table. I'm not wasting Amy's time. It's bringing that to the table. I also like to do this personality test. So as I mentioned with the Doable Health team, that's what we're doing. One of the health coaches is facilitating it. And so probably I would say on average every other year, I'll bring to Amy a new personality test, and we might do it before, or we might doing it or do it during our family summit. And this is something new. Is I'll also in preparation for the family summit with Amy, I will go through my phone and I'll go month by month just to remind myself of what we did for the year. And I'm preparing for this podcast. I actually looked at my notebook here and I would just simply write down the month of the year, and maybe I try to keep it to 5 or 7 bullet points for each month just to remind ourselves of the adventures that we were on. And this is something new that I've really enjoyed doing. So here's an image. This is worth downloading the PDF or watching the YouTube version of this. This is back in 2016. So Amy is 7 months pregnant. Here we are. We went to a local cafe, and this is an inside look at one of our 14 family summits. You can see on the table, we got some treats, and I've got my notebook. Amy's got the coffee, and then she's writing down something in a notebook, which I'll share with you in a moment. But this is just an inside look of what a family summit is. I mean, you can make this as big or as little as you want to. I'm just sharing with you what we try to do is make it special. And so, having some treats, going out to a location, these are all strategies that we've attempted over the last 14 years to make this thing a real event. And then afterwards, it's a little bit blurry of a picture, but you can see me, shorter beard in this moment, but still a hairy guy. And we created this poster board. So imagine on the wall, if you're not looking at this, we've got a poster board and it's got our rally cry and it's got our annual goals. So that's 2016. And then on the bottom, it has what makes us unique as a family. So these are terms that you're probably familiar with in the business world, what your focus is and what your goals are and what your mission statement is. And you can do the same for your family. And it's a great opportunity to take leadership with your family to plan this out. And at the same time, it's also good leadership training because you can't just force your partner to do this. You've got to recognize, oh, in my case, maybe Amy needs that special treat or go to that cafe or to make this as comfortable as possible when you're talking about things that they don't want to or they would rather use their time in a different way. I'm just wired that I love this kind of stuff, whether it's business or personal. So that's an image of us after a full day of doing our family summit, having this physical poster board so we could refer back to during the course of the year. And I've actually got another image here to give you an inside look, once again, what our rally cry was. And it was prepare for the arrival of baby girl. So this makes perfect sense. This is 2016 before our second is born, and we realized, hey, there's a lot to do. Even though it's our second time, at least we were more wise and we know what's to do. So we have a piece of paper that's printed out on this poster board, and it's the rally cry, and it's got primary next steps and then secondary next steps. The rally cry is taken from the book Three Questions for a Frantic Family by Patrick Lencioni. So that's a recommendation if you're interested in hosting your own family summit. Basically, it's just what's the most important thing for you as a couple, for you as a family to focus on so that when you have a free evening, you know what you should focus on. When you have the weekend, like that's the most important thing, and it's a rally cry that actually is not something that you can just knock out in a weekend. It's something that should take a couple months to do. So it's a bigger goal with it. Think of maybe like a quarterly goal. And then we have the annual goal, and this one in 2016 was steps to reach our 2025 vision. So we've been doing this so long. We set a 10-year vision back in, I guess, 2015, and then it was 2025, which is coming up. And let's see here. I can see that our primary was to stick to our budget all year, to attend a marriage conference and read two marriage related books, and to contribute 15% of salary to retirement. And then we had some secondary goals as well. At the time, we were saving for our next house, which we now live in. So it's really fun to see these images and to reflect on what what that is like. Gosh, so much to share with this. This gives you an idea of what a family summit could look like, how I've chosen to rope Amy into it every single year, 14 plus years going into it, and then how to take some of the best of the business books out there and frameworks and tie that into the family so that it's real and practical. And I can tell you one thing, like for me, the reason this helps me be a healthy provider to bless and protect in a way that doesn't burn me out, as you might tell in this podcast, I am speaking very easily about this. Like it is a passion of mine. It's fun for me to talk about. And I'm just wired that way. So this is not burning me out. I'm enjoying this. And I feel like this is how I can lead my family well. And I've been doing it long enough to recognize that, gosh, this is something that has been adding value that we keep doing it. And I always learn things too. So I'm always tweaking this and learning. While I have deep experience in it, I always feel like this can be better. And so let me go back here to the presentation. And here's one thing that we've added that has made it better. This is writing to one another during the summit. And I really treasure this a lot. So most years we do this, and it's where we exchange notebooks and we write to one another. So this is just at the coffee table, if we're at the cafe, exchange physical notebooks, and then we answer the following questions: is how did you see the other person? In my case, how did I see Amy grow this last year? What stands out about Amy from the last year? And what am I most thankful for about her? And then she's writing the same thing about me. So we're taking 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes with this. And it's just supposed to be something that we're thinking about leading up to it, but we're not preparing any remarks. It's also in the moment. And it just means a lot to see what the other person says about you and what has stood out from the last year. So that is something that has been uh, amazing. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's just been a really nice thing to add to it because there's so much work that you can do in a family summit. You can get bogged down, you can get depressed about a variety of things. Like it could be money issues or I don't know, like lack of travel or whatever it might be. Like there's things that we want and it's hard to get, right? There's obstacles in the way. And yet it's really nice to start out a summit this way. We're writing to one another in this positive tone. So wanted to highlight this. This is something that has been really good for us to set the tone with it. And then as we finish up the summit, I'm reviewing the balance sheet. We pick the rally cry. We also pick our giving goals as well, because when you get into the budget, it can be hard. And every year we're like, hey, we're gonna do a better job budgeting here. We're still working on that discipline every single year with what that looks like. But to finish well is to spend quality time together and to make it intentional, just like I would make it intentional in my businesses or my colleagues, like I'm going to do this week. So, in summary, a healthy provider blesses and protects without burning out. And for me, what that has looked like is taking my skills in the business world and trying to take that into the family year in and year out so we can be focused on the right things And when we get distracted, we've got something to look back on. Like, hey, what's our family rally cry? Or what's the 10-year goals that we're striving for? And if we're off that, do we need to correct those somehow? And just dreaming big in a way that is similar to what businesses do, but in a family context as well. That's what I do. Take it or leave it. That's my experience. Alex Hormozy style would say. So, 5 pillars of the series. That was a review of how I'm providing for the family in this season. Next up, I might get into a little bit nutrition, exercise, then after that, faith, and then my career and some current goals that I have. We'll see how the spirit moves, meaning how the series starts. So this is the first time presenting one of these. Would love your feedback. So, as a reminder, this podcast, Become a Provider, is part of the C.L. Thomas Fellowship. As I mentioned earlier, you can go to clthomasfellowship.org to look at some of the free resources that we have there, to join the weekly newsletter, Always Provide, and subscribe to the podcast. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, Become a Provider. And I hope it encourages you and inspires you to be a servant leader and a provider like Jesus. If you want to follow me, my personal website is justinthomascoaching.com, and I'm on social at Justin Thomas NC for North Carolina. So that's at Justin Thomas NC. So that's how you can get in touch with me. And thank you for being part of this Become a Provider show, and for your interest in becoming a provider in your own way, whether that's for your family, like we talked about today, or if you're focused on your career development or your health. This is a topic that I'm very interested in, and I'm committed to always learning and growing. So it's fun to reflect on what I've been hopefully providing for Amy over the years, and then also the work that we're doing through the C.L. Thomas Fellowship with it as well. So with that, keep blessing and protecting, and we'll see you next time on the Becoming a Provider show. Thanks. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I want to provide you with one more thing before you go, called Always Provide. Would you enjoy getting some encouragement each Wednesday to help you get over hump day? If so, subscribe to our free newsletter at clthomasfellowship.org. It's easy to sign up, and it's sort of a diary of ways that I'm personally learning to provide and serve more like Jesus. I share inspiring books, scripture, stories, and even products that are helping me to always provide. So if you want to try it out, go to clthomasfellowship.org/newsletter and sign up. So until next time, keep serving others like Jesus. Bless and protect.